on the tablas and Rastko Razic on the drums, and that piece was Aurora. Please give another round of applause. And I'm very happy to have Arun come up and join me here on the mic for a quick chat, a quick interview. Arun, what inspired you to get into this way of music making?
Well, I've been playing music for years, since I was a wee nipper, and I'd always just loved jazz, and I played a lot of it. I think when I was about like 19, 20, I became very interested in Indian music. It was music that I'd listened to when I was growing up, and I originally came to it more as a kind of new means of improvisation. And what I found was it just opened up a whole new approach to kind of musical culture, composition, as well as playing. And through kind of learning, in the same way as I'd learned from listening and transcribing Coltrane and Herbie Hancock and Miles Davis, I started transcribing musicians like Ustad Bismillah Khan, the Shehnai player, Ravi Shankar, Ali Akbar Khan, listening to those guys and seeing what they did and how they worked with rags. It started to influence my playing and my composition, and once I started playing with tabla players, I was away, really.
Were you looking for a way to deliberately infuse your culture into your interest in jazz?
Yeah, I think very much so. I think it wasn't that... Well, actually, it's interesting how you put it. I wasn't necessarily doing anything deliberately or conscientiously. It wasn't conscientious, but it was deliberate in the sense that I knew that I had all sorts of loves of music which go beyond jazz, in fact, you know, rock and roll and punk and hip-hop and reggae, drum and bass and so on, as well as Indian music. And for me, music kind of, I hear connections between different musical cultures and different scales and different melodies and chords and so on, but I also kind of just have been filled with all this music through growing up here, and I just feel that that's kind of what comes out of me.
It's just an evolution. I mean, as an artist, one evolves and learns to incorporate things that you love.
Sure.
I guess to create your own identity. Now, why is the sextet format in this way you put it together the vehicle that you've chosen to use?
I think when I put together my first album, Northern Namaste, for me it was all about finding that way of making the drums work with the tabla and the bass. So much of my music comes from bass lines. That's often the start of my composition, and I realised that a lot of the bass things, once I started listening to tabla patterns, the bass lines I was coming to were influenced by tabla patterns. And then it was just all about kind of just working out how the drums worked with that. Then in terms of the composition, you know, I'll write music in a particular rag, which is a scale, and unlike kind of a lot of kind of fusion artists, I'm not just sticking things together. When I sort of write in a particular scale, like this last piece Aurora was in the scale Bhairavi, it's kind of, it's like a Phrygian mode, but every single part of the melody, the improvisation, the harmony, the bass line, all comes from that scale. The same goes for the previous piece, Uterine. It's based on a slow 7-beat Indian cycle on a scale called Meg. And again, everything kind of comes from that bass line, and everything comes from the rag.
Well, it's great to see the amazing oneness and energy that is connected with the way that you play your instrument and connect with the rest of the guys in the band. It's really wonderful to hear you play, Arun. And what's next? What's coming up next?
Well, we're currently kind of working on the second album. The first piece you heard this evening, Caliban's Revenge, is going to be the opening track on the new album, and you can look out for that in the spring. Until then, Northern Namaste is still available. But I would just kind of say that I'm working on that. I've got gigs coming up, London Jazz Festival things, a special kind of performance coming up on the 2nd of December in St Barnabas Church in London, in central London, and that's a night called Accidental Power Cut, which is a totally acoustic night. There's 2 other bands playing there, and that'll be something really special for us.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Arun Ghosh.
Thank you very much.